Welcome back, everybody, to the Classic Rock Podcast. And coming up in this edition, and it is a very good edition, even if I say so myself, because we have one of the real legends of the genre. Glen Hughes is joining me to celebrate Burn by Deep Purple reaching 50, which is the subject of the autumn tour, which also has in tow the really rather fabulous The Damn Truth coming along to join the party. I'm wondering now, actually, what the chances are of Leela Baum and Glen Hughes on stage together. Ann Wilson always wanted to have Glen Hughes on stage to duet. So, yeah, I wonder what the potential there is. That is not all, because we are also joined by the man described as the guitarist's guitar player, who began playing live in the smoky blues clubs around New Orleans as a teenager, and has stood and played alongside some of the blues legends. And indeed, he's turned a few down, because James Brown once called him and said, "Hey, I need you to come and join the band." And he just thought about it and said, "Nah, not for me, not at the moment." He's got a new album out. His name is Lance Lopez. But you knew that already, didn't you? Trouble is Good is the album, and it's a brilliant album. And he joins me to look back at his extraordinary career and the new album. And if you've missed any of the latest shows that we've had over the last few weeks, we've had some brilliant guests on telling some great stories and playing some really rather good music. Dead Daisies' David Lowy has been on in recent times. They've got a brand new Best Of album coming out, and his story is also quite incredible, from the boardrooms of the Westfield Corporation and the aerobatic champion of Australia to suddenly putting together in his mid-50s a rock and roll band. That show is out now. Robert John on the Wrecker coming out on a European tour. Denny Carmassi of Heart, and Montrose, the drummer, with many, many stories to tell. And Leela Baum of The Damn Truth, who was on most recently, along with When Rivers Meet, who have a new album out called Aces Are High. They've all featured, and if you've missed any of them, then you should go over and give them a look. Now, moving on, Glen Hughes remains musically at the very top of his game, be it live or in the studio. And there is, coming up, a new couple of tracks on the Dead Daisies Best Of collection out this month. There is also the Burn 50th Anniversary Tour and the People's Band. You know who I'm talking about here. Black Country Communion, back with another album due early next year. The voice of rock remains one of the most in-demand musicians anywhere, and for really very good reason. Few can match that musical dexterity that he has. Now, I met up with him a couple of weeks back, and we chatted about 50 years at Burn, exploring those times in the 1970s, Ritchie Blackmore's legendary sense of humour, and Black Country Communion as well. But to start, for Deep Purple, there was Trapeze. And before that, there was a succession of bands where he honed his craft. The fabulously named Hooker Lees, Finders Keepers, and then into Trapeze. All in all, Deep Purple knew exactly what they were getting with Glen Hughes, a highly accomplished stage performer and touring musician who knew how to play in big venues to big crowds. And all in all, one of the hottest young talents in the musical world. So, before we hear from Glen and get into the conversation, let's remind you how good Trapeze were at the top of their game. And when I'm talking about the top of their game, they were at the top of the game at the time Deep Purple came calling. Now tell me, and not a lot of people know this, I don't think, before you again went into Deep Purple, you nearly joined this band called the
Yeah, yeah,
Electric
yeah.
Light Orchestra. You left Trapeze for a couple of weeks and went and you moved in with Roy Wood.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Roy was a close friend. I'd known Roy since the move, and Jeff and Bev and Roy were forming this band called ELO. They were just about to start making that record, and they asked me if I'd like to play bass and be one of the singers. It was Don Arden that came to see me, and I couldn't refuse Don Arden, you know. But my mother, my mom called Roy and Don a couple of weeks later to tell them Glenn's not ready to join. I just wasn't ready to leave Trapeze, you know.
You were having a great time as well. I mean, the instant recognition everywhere. Love the story of you and David Coverdale in the is it the Beverly Wilshire when you signed John Wayne's cowboy boots.
John Wayne, he was he was such a nice man. He was very, very, very nice.
So, was looking back then, just as we conclude, and you look at the raft of people that wanted you to be involved with all of their projects. I mean, Ann Wilson wanted you to sing with her. Glenn Tipton thought it'd be a great idea for you to be in Judas Priest. The one that was the standout one though was Eddie Van Halen saying that had things been better on a personal level,
Yeah,
if you would have
yeah.
been in Van Halen. That's quite incredible.
Well, you know, Eddie was newly sober at that time. This would have been 25 years, I don't know, 22 years ago. We spoke about it. I had no idea because they were Eddie had been friends of mine from the beginning. So um, look, wow. I mean, yeah, it would it have worked? I'm not sure unless I was completely sober, and I've been sober now for 20, almost 24 years. So sorry, yeah, 24 years. Yeah, yeah, it would have been interesting, wouldn't it? You never know.
And lastly, then, this is a quote of yours that I'll finish with. You survived a heart attack. You've had open heart surgery, two new knees,
Yeah,
been run over by a
yeah,
car, stabbed and shot, and brought back to life in
yeah,
hospital. I'm here for a
yeah.
reason.
I am. I am. I know my sole purpose, and that is to help people across our planet, whether it's through my work with working with alcoholics and drug addicts, or through my music, and also through my music, the lyrics I write. As you know, I write about the human condition. I don't write about fiction. When I got sober in a long time ago, I started to change the lyrical content about being the healer, and I'm going to continue to do that. It's my life purpose.